A mother in Massachusetts answers the phone and hears that her daughter has won a beauty contest. The reporter is kind, coaxing, eager to learn more about the girl with the dark hair and the flower tucked above her ear. When he has what he needs, he delivers the real headline: "Your daughter is dead." In a vacant lot in Los Angeles, a passerby and her child see what looks like a broken mannequin. It isn't. It is Elizabeth Short, 22 years old, washed, posed, and made into a message no one can quite decode. Within hours, the city becomes a megaphone. Within days, America has a new myth. They call her the Black Dahlia. January 15, 1947. South Norton Avenue, Leimert Park. Morning light filters over weeds and hard-packed dirt. A stroller squeaks, a mother's hand tightens on the handle. She stops. The scene is so unreal her brain supplies a softer word: store window prop, discarded. Then the details arrive, one by one, and the spell breaks. Police swarm. Reporters arrive almost as quickly, stepping closer than they should, trampling edges that might have mattered. The body is drained of blood, likely washed elsewhere, then carried here and deliberately posed. The killer has split the torso with startling precision, between vertebrae, the kind of cut taught in anatomy labs. There are ligature marks on wrists and ankles, a sign she was bound. A mutilation to the face, cruel and theatrical, completes the tableau. Almost no blood in the soil. Whoever did this had time, knowledge, nerve. The name comes later. The photographs, cropped and blurred in papers, whispered about in bars, come sooner. The story is already becoming something larger than a homicide. It's a dare. Before she became a headline, Elizabeth Short was Beth, a Boston-born, Medford-raised girl who was partial to black dresses, who took care with her appearance even when she didn't have much else, who wrote letters with neat loops. When she was 6, her father's car was found abandoned near a bridge. He was presumed dead. Years later, he reappeared in California, and teenage Beth wrote him back. She wanted warmth, and she wanted the sun. The winters wrecked her lungs. She found reasons to be south whenever she could. Florida, then California. In 1943, she was arrested in Santa Barbara for underage drinking and shipped back east. She returned anyway. By 1946, she was back in Los Angeles, living on possibilities and couches, dating soldiers and salesmen and anyone who seemed to have a car. She waitressed, she posed for the odd photo, and she talked about acting the way you talk about something that hovers like a helium balloon above your life, close enough to touch if the right wind blows. If there was a nickname before the murder, it was small, local, perhaps a drugstore joke about her dark wardrobe and a recent Alan Ladd movie called The Blue Dahlia. The public would later insist she must have been a femme fatale. The files insist she was a young woman trying to get by. The last stretch of her life begins with a kind gesture. In San Diego, a young mother takes pity on Beth and offers her a couch. Elizabeth reconnects with a traveling salesman she'd known the previous summer, Robert, red, manly, awkwardly loyal, half in love, half looking for trouble he can still deny. On January 8th and 9th, 1947, Manley drives Beth north to Los Angeles, pays for a motel, insists nothing untoward happens, then brings her to the Biltmore Hotel downtown, where she says she's meeting her sister. The lobby is full of marble and promise. Witnesses see her there. Some say they see her later at a nearby bar. Then she dissolves into the city. The missing week becomes the investigation's black box. January 10th through 14, a thicket of unreliable sightings and rumor. Did she couch surf with acquaintances? Was she held somewhere? Did she leave with someone who knew exactly how this would end? Each theory births 3 more. The discovery detonates the case into the papers. The Los Angeles Examiner runs with it, christening her the Black Dahlia and feeding the city daily shocks. In a maneuver so cold it still stings, an Examiner reporter tells Elizabeth's mother in Medford that her daughter has won a contest, gathers details about her life, then reveals the truth. Readers devour those personal details. They sell papers. The victim becomes a character written by men who never met her. Detectives Harry Hansen and Finest Brown of the LAPD grind into the work. They canvass the Biltmore and the Crown Grill, track down roommates and dance partners, press Red Manley under hot lights. He submits to a polygraph, offers his alibis, and passes. They tug on the thread of a Hollywood nightclub owner, Mark Hansen, whose name appears embossed on an address book mailed to the examiner by someone claiming to be the killer. Hansen had let Elizabeth crash at his place before, and likely made clumsy advances. He says he doesn't know what happened. He is investigated and not charged. The mail starts, cut and paste notes, misspelled taunts, and a package containing Elizabeth's belongings, all wiped with gasoline. The sender promises to surrender at a certain time and place. No one arrives. Are these the killer's words, or a scavenger's theater? The gasoline suggests a methodical hand. The walk to the mailbox suggests nerve. Seems tear everywhere. The crime scene was compromised by curiosity. The era's forensics can't answer questions we now reflexively ask of DNA. 1,000 tips dilute the few that matter. Men confess because they crave attention or penance or to punish themselves for nothing they did. A city famous for telling stories begins to tell this one in 30 directions at once. No single hand lifts a curtain to name the killer. The reveal is that the deeper you go, the fewer certainties survive. And yet, across decades, two men loom with a particular gravity. Leslie Dillon writes to police in 1948, suggesting another suspect. He's a bellhop, a former mortuary assistant. He knows macabre details that set detectives on edge. They come to suspect him. They surveil, they manipulate, they mishandle, depending on which account you trust. In the end, the case against him fails to cohere. He walks. Half a century later, author P.O. Eatwell argues Dillon was the likeliest killer, his violence abetted by a corrupt web around Mark Hansen. The book is persuasive to some, infuriating to others, and officially proves nothing. Then there is Dr. George Hodel, brilliant, wealthy, predatory, nestled inside the theatrical angles of the Soden House in Hollywood. In 1950, as part of a different investigation, LAPD bugs his home. The tapes capture unsettling fragments, references to illegal abortions, to a scream, and a line paraphrased by investigators as, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now." Shortly after, Hodel leaves for Asia and stays gone for years. Decades later, his son Steve, a retired LAPD detective, accuses his father in books that marshal timelines, geography, and psychology into a case. Critics say the evidence is circumstantial, the transcripts ambiguous, the connections too tidy. Yet if you talk to people who have stared at Dahlia files for a lifetime, Hodel often sits atop their list. Another name surfaces in a quieter theory, Dr. Walter Bailey, a respected surgeon whose former family home was close to where Elizabeth was found. Researcher Larry Harnish notes Bailey's surgical expertise and proximity. Doubters note the lack of any connection to Beth, the absence of motive, and questions about his health. The theory remains an elegant possibility lacking weight. Devastating because none of it resolves. Because a line on a tape and a doctor's proximity and a bellhop's knowledge seem like the edges of a picture that still won't come into focus. Because the killer, if he wanted to be a ghost, chose the right city and the right century to disappear. Los Angeles metabolizes the murder into a noir creation myth, the dark engine inside the glamour machine. The case teaches cops hard lessons about crime scene control. It teaches reporters that cruelty can masquerade as scooping. It teaches readers that there's a difference between a victim and a persona, and that the latter sells better. The public splits. Some lock onto Hodel, pointing to the bugged remarks, to his snake-like history, to the way Soden House looks like a nightmare with windows. Some argue for Dillon, seeing in his words and wanderings the outline of a man who could be at once fascinated and capable. Others keep their own list of footnote suspects, drifters, con men, a soldier with a too eager confession, a butcher who knew how to cut. Some imagine links to the Cleveland torso murders because a pattern is a comfort even when it's fiction. Every few years, a new article proclaims the case solved. Every few years, the authorities remind everyone it remains open, officially unsolved. Files are digitized. Evidence is re-examined. DNA is invoked like a spell. The truth is that 1947 was a different world. No genetic profiles, minimal preservation, a scene compromised in our one. The story is stronger than the chain of custody. What happened in the missing week after Elizabeth left the Biltmore? Did she drift through spare rooms and borrowed couches? Or did someone confine her in a place prepared for exactly what followed? Did the mailed letters and package come from the killer, or from someone with access to her effects? A scavenger? A press-adjacent ghoul? The gasoline-wiped belongings point to an intentional erasure. The tone points to performance. How much did surgical skill matter? Does the clean bisection narrow the pool to a doctor, or could a mortuary worker, butcher, or medical trainee have achieved it? If Hodel boasted on tape, was it the arrogance of a guilty man or the theater of a narcissist? If Dillon knew too much, was it because he was the author of the crime, or because he was drawn, fatally, to its details? Would today's forensic science have solved this within a week? Or is the most important evidence simply gone? Trampled, wiped, mailed, evaporated under the Southern California sun? Stand at the corner of Norton Avenue where the lot has been filled and trimmed, where today's traffic hums, and it's hard to feel the shiver that kept a city awake in 1947. There's no marker here, no plaque to say that America's most infamous unsolved murder turned the dirt into an altar to uncertainty. A breeze drags through the palms. A plane writes a white line across the sky. If you listen for long enough, you might hear the sound the case always makes, the click of a camera shutter, the rustle of a newspaper, the low murmur of a detective saying maybe, maybe. Elizabeth Short is not the legend the papers created for her. She was a daughter, a friend, a young woman who loved beauty on a budget, who laughed, who wrote neat letters, who struggled, who wanted. The person who killed her wanted you to look and keep looking. We have obliged for almost 80 years. If there's a lesson in the Black Dahlia, it might be this. Some stories are designed to stay open, either by malice or mistake. They become mirrors. We see the city we fear, the institutions we mistrust, the monsters we think wear lab coats or bellhop uniforms or designer suits. And somewhere beneath all that reflection is a life interrupted that deserves to be remembered without the myth. The mystery endures. The loss is certain. And in the space between, Los Angeles keeps telling itself the same bedtime story, hoping, at last, to dream the ending into being.
Like and subscribe.